Well, kiddies, so you're just dying for more information about the rusted and hideous sidekick in Jeepers Creepers? Well, you've come to the right place. My old pal Tommy has been scaring up gruesome information about this metal monster for years. You might say he's a real ghoul getter. So hang around and all your creeper truck questions will be laid to rest.
Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to tell you all the things you're not supposed to know about the creeper truck. During the creation of Jeepers Creepers, the company wanted to have 3 trucks. The reason for this is very simple. They always need to have one running and one ready if there are modifications that need to be made to it. And so if one truck doesn't work, then it's going to cost a lot of money in production waiting for it to get fixed. So there's always multiples of everything in all the movies that you see. I have always identified the trucks by number in the order that they were made, and we will do that today also so that we can keep track of each truck. The script originally called for the creeper to move around in a van. That was so that he could be hidden and not be seen as he was maybe flying from place to place. It also gave him a place to carry his bodies in the back of his truck. And the truck was very creepy looking, and so it gave him the opportunity to scare his victims so that he could smell their fear. The director of photography and the film director, Victor Salva, were looking around for a van, and they just couldn't find one that was creepy enough to play the vehicular villain that they wanted. They looked at box trucks, they looked at ice cream trucks, all the things that they could find, none of them fit the bill. They finally ended up in a wrecking yard in Central Florida where they found the perfect vehicle to be the creeper's truck. The sidekick to the creeper himself. They found a 1941 Chevrolet cabover engine. The truck was ugly, it was dented, it was rusted, and it was old. And above all, it was creepy. But it was a truck, and that was a problem. They needed a van. They made the decision that this was the face that they wanted as the antagonist who would chase the kids home from school. And so in making that decision, it became necessary to build box trucks out of this flatbed truck. And so that was going to be another budgetary issue that they had to deal with. But it didn't matter to them. They had truck 1. And it was exactly what they wanted. So they got this truck back to the production studio and they began work on it, creating the box and the bumper on the front. They did the skeletal structure on truck 1 and they skinned it, and they even painted it, making the paint match the paint that was on the cab that they'd found, with all of the dents and the rust and the red splotches that were already on this truck. And truck 1 became the prototype and served as the likeness of all of the other 2 trucks that would follow. And so this truck originally looked the way it did when they found it in the wrecking yard. It had the same dents on the hood, and it was missing the teeth in the grill. So this was the truck that they wanted, and they made the others look like this truck. It isn't known how truck 1 served in Jeepers Creepers. The original people who filmed it don't remember. It is my guess that it was used at the church. The truck was static and didn't run, and they had a nice static shot there at the church. And so I believe that's how truck 1 was used. It may, though, have been relegated to just the very ending, which ended up getting written out of Jeepers Creepers. Originally, Derry was going to commandeer and hijack the creeper's truck. The creeper was going to attack him and be with the truck, and they were all going to run into a train. And that is how the end of the creeper was going to happen, and Derry would meet his demise. So truck 1 was almost done, not quite, when they found truck 2. It is rumored that truck 2 was found in Texas, and even better, it was running. And now they had a running 1941 Chevrolet cabover. And so they stopped work on truck 1 and they turned their attention to truck 2. They built the box on the back of truck 2, also skeletal, and they skinned it. They built it very much like truck 1, but there were some differences. And then they also built the front bumper on truck 2. The bumpers were pretty close, but the boxes were different, believe it or not, from truck 1 and 2. Truck 1 had a pretty defined arch along the bottom of the box, and it had a very unique way of tying the box into the cab. Truck 2 had a much narrower arch along the bottom of the box for whatever reason, and it also tied into the cab differently. It had a more beautiful rounded tying into the cab. Truck 2 is now in the hands of my buddy Troy, and he has restored it visually on the outside, repainted it, and made it look very much like it did in Jeepers Creepers 1. And rumor has it that it's getting a mechanical upgrade as well, but I'll let him share that with you on social media. Truck 2, likewise, we're not certain how it was used. One area where we know the truck was used is when the creeper attacks the police officers, and he lands on top of the car and he cuts the policeman's head off. Thereafter, he opens the back door of his truck, throws the body in and the head in, and then closes the door. We know that this is truck 2. Truck 2 was not only finished on the outside, but it's the only truck of the 3 that had a floor in the back, and they did minimal decoration to the inside of the truck. You don't see a lot of the inside of the truck, so it was very sparsely decorated, but they did do a little decoration, and we look past all of that at the back doors in the dark as the creeper throws the body in. The other possibility where truck 2 may have been used is also at the church. There are pictures of the creeper truck sitting at the church with bodies in the back, and Jonathan Breck is the creeper standing there. I believe they abandoned these shots because they chose to shoot only distant shots of the creeper throwing the bodies into the pipe. That was such a beautiful shot, they decided they didn't need any close-ups of the bodies being thrown into the pipe. I do not believe either truck 1 or truck 2 was used as the creeper parted the church in his truck to chase Trish and Derry the second time. I believe this was truck 3, and the reason I think so is because if you look at it closely, it looks to me more like truck 3 for one, but it also is very fast. It's peeling out as it leaves the church, it's getting a little sideways, and I believe this was truck 3 that they used for that scene. It was this truck that they built, and this brings us to truck 3. They built it specifically to be a stunt vehicle. Truck 3 was found, I believe, in Central Florida as well. It was not running when they found it. It was also a longer wheelbase. So they had to shorten the wheelbase on that truck before they built the box on the back. The other thing of interest is that it is not a 41, it's a 46. And this can be identified by the key hole being beneath the handle on the passenger's door. Whereas 41, the key is actually in the door handle. And so they picked up truck 3 and they outfitted it with a V8 Chevy 350 and an automatic 350 transmission. They also put a racing bucket in it, and they put some racing shoulder straps to keep the stunt driver safe in this truck. Despite all their efforts, this truck is rumored to have run horribly. It never ran right. It would delay production. And I believe for this reason, there are a few spots where truck 2 probably is used in the chase, but this we don't know. Nevertheless, truck 3 with its V8 and automatic was very fast, and it could easily catch the 1960 Chevy that Trish and Derry were driving.
Derry. Coming up ass.
But that's only when it ran right. It ran horrible and it didn't work most of the time. One location where you can see that this truck is running terrible is outside of Opper's Diner when the creeper truck goes by. And as it goes down the road, you see this plume of smoke where it's running really rich. It's probably running horribly during that scene, but nevertheless, it pushed itself down the road and they got the shot. Interestingly enough, Truck 3 was also very different than Truck 1 and Truck 2. Truck 3 had a very defined arch along the bottom of the box, more defined than either of the other trucks. This made the Creeper's third truck, the chase truck, very beautiful on film. It really looks nice. It also has a less arch where the top of the box meets the cab. This also made the truck look a lot more beautiful and graceful. It's funny to say, you know, the Creeper truck looks beautiful, but really on the third try they nailed it. That is the most graceful looking Creeper truck. Originally, by the sketches that were created, where they defined what they wanted for the Creeper's truck, it was this ugly, beat up, terrible old truck with a bunch of things welded to the side. And it was rounded on all sides on the top. Not only was it rounded front to back, but it was also rounded side to side. And when they started to make the box on the back, they quickly realized there was no way that they were going to make a rounded box on all sides. It was much too difficult. So they chose to round it only from the front to back, and that gave us this beautiful rounded arch top to the Creeper's truck. And then from side to side it was flat, which made it look a lot like a vehicular Frankenstein, like Frankenstein's monster's head, nice and flat on the top. It was just the perfect culmination of design and actual creation of the truck. When it was built, it was just beautiful. The whereabouts of Truck 3 is not known for sure. It is likely that it was discovered not long ago, but the exact whereabouts and the current condition of the truck are not fully known at this time. That brings us to Jeepers Creepers 2. In the making of Jeepers Creepers 2, there were no Creeper trucks in that movie, as you guys well know. This is because at the end of Jeepers Creepers 1, as ridiculous as it is, they sold the Creeper trucks for scrap.
My first guess, inbreeding!
They sold the trucks back to the original wrecking yard where they found the first truck, and they just scrapped them. So when production of 2 started, they didn't really have the budget to build the trucks again, and they didn't know where the trucks were, so they chose to just write it out of the script. But this really disappointed some fans, as the Creeper truck had become a staple to be with the Creeper. It was his sidekick, and it was one of the scariest parts in the first movie. And so that's one of the regrets that the director had, was not having the trucks for his second movie. That brings us to Jeepers Creepers 3. And the truck was reintroduced in a big way in Jeepers 3. And for this movie, they chose to use Truck 1. Truck 1 belongs to me, and I had restored it for myself. And at the time of shooting Jeepers 3, I had just finished the restoration. And they called and wanted to know where the truck was, did it run, and all the questions that they asked. And fortunately, I was able to tell them that it was ready to go. And so it received a complete makeover. It got new paint, automotive hardened paint, with a clear over it, a flat clear. It got a mechanical upgrade with a racing Chevy 350 engine. It got an overdrive automatic, so that it could do speeds well over 100 if it needed to. It also got power steering, power brakes, and it got disc brakes. Even received disc brakes on the front using the original equipment, the original spindles and axles, so that everything looked perfect, but we had disc brakes. So the company really enjoyed the truck in the filming of 3. It performed perfectly, it was fast. Truck 3 also received some special attention to detail. The back was finished completely and distressed to look old, so that the Creeper could put all of his ornaments and weapons and things that he uses when he goes out hunting. Had a distressed floor in it so that it would look good. Really, it was screen ready when they received the truck. It also got the addition of a 36 Chevrolet truck dash, and it was morphed with the 1941, and so it fit the V'd windshield that a 41 truck has, but it was this beautiful 36 dash that sort of has almost a frown. So with the screen time that the truck received in 3, it looked a whole lot creepier. When truck 1 was restored, it was restored to look like it did in Jeepers Creepers 3, but also with a little bit more detail and aging and less red splotches, less rough work, so that it would look more like it had come from a field. And therefore, if I was with it at a show or convention, you could walk up to the truck and it looked pretty old. And so it was kind of a balance between the two. Truck 1 was used for a lot of the shooting of Jeepers 3, but it was not used exclusively for filming 3. We ended up using another truck, and so now this becomes truck 4 in the lineage of creeper trucks. The company needed a truck so that they could build an interior set. They built a box that was huge on the back of this cab and front sheet metal. Truck 4 was sent to the company without a chassis. They did not want a chassis under it. They just wanted it crated up as a cab and sheet metal so that they could create this inner studio. And so they set the 4th truck's cab and sheet metal up, built this huge box on the back where they could get all their lighting and cameras in the back, so that when Kirk and Addison and the Creeper were in the back, they had room to film it adequately, and so that you could get lighting and people in there and they could do their jobs. Truck 4 is easy to identify in Jeepers 3, and I'll tell you guys a secret. Whenever you see Truck 4 being used, it's going to have a very wide section between the cab and the box. That's because the box was so wide compared to the cab that they had to have this big, what I call a winged section, okay? The box for the 4th truck was also built much taller, and so you will notice that the distance between the cab and the roof is also a lot greater. That was so that the actors and camera people could stand up in the box. So this box was really huge. The box did not become a permanent part of the truck. They just used the cab and the sheet metal up front, and they built this rolling interior set behind it. So truck 4 is now in the process of becoming an actual creeper truck. It has a real sized skeletal structure of the box that's modeled exactly after the trucks from the first movie. It has its front bumper. The cab and sheet metal have been placed on this truck's chassis, and some of the distressing dents and missing teeth and stuff like that have been done. It's got a motor and a transmission in it, and so it's not far from becoming an actual truck, and will be on the road painted and look like a creeper truck before too long. That brings us to the 5th truck, which was created for Jeepers Creepers 4 Reborn. This is a vehicle that many of us wish had never been created. It was created in England, I believe. They used an English truck that is right-hand drive. It almost looks like the steering wheel is in the center of the truck. It's not. Truck 5 also used a much longer wheelbase, and they used the original wheels and tires that had come on this English truck, which I believe are probably 16s. And so you have these little tiny wheels and tires. The total height is probably 26 inches or something like that, as opposed to the original trucks that had 20-inch wheels and had a 38 tall tire that really filled in that wheel well good. So you have this truck that looks like it's a skateboard with these little tiny wheels and a long, frame. It just looks ridiculous. And then to add to that, they put these horrible lights up on the top, which never belonged. I know that they were doing their own take on Jeepers Creepers, but those lights just look horrible. It's not a dune buggy, so in my personal opinion, it shouldn't have had those either. The way it was distressed with these areas on the truck where it was supposed to be rusted out, it doesn't look rusted out. It looks like somebody took a die cutter and cut pieces out of the fender and out of the box. And it has these weird pieces where pieces are added to the box, just random, different colors. It's just really bizarre. the choices that they made. I can't imagine they're very proud of the truck that they created for Jeepers Creepers 4 because they never show it clearly. It's always a little bit blurry and it's always in the dark, which is okay, but if they were proud of what they had built, they probably would have showed it a little more clearly.